YouTube now. There we go. All right, here we go. Welcome everybody to our first YouTube live here at the Professional Volunteer. We've been kicking this around for a while, the thought of doing this. And this week we have put together a great panel of friends and brothers and sisters to talk about some pretty interesting topics. I am happy to have John Sahatjian back, and John has been my right hand on a lot of cool stuff since we kicked off this journey, and I'm happy to have John back. John, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks.
We have got Nate Routledge, who is one of my nearby brothers here, right in New York, actually in my own county. And Nate's been a guest on the podcast. Nate, what's up? Welcome.
Yep. Thanks for having me back, Chief.
And brand new to the show, somebody who I have been kind of poking for a little while now to come on, whether it's the podcast or something on YouTube Live, Brooke Ames. Brooke, welcome. Thanks for being here. So
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's good to have everybody. So we've all gone back and forth on social for a while, whether it's Insta or Facebook. And I threw some topics out there for some potential discussion. Talked to John and Nate and Jeremy, who hopefully will be on in a few minutes. He had some last minute emergency in his own house. Hopefully that's going okay for Jeremy. And then Brooke sent me a message, which was cool because we've gone back and forth a little while about maybe doing some podcast stuff. And I threw the topics at her, and I actually got some cool quotes from her on her reply back when I first threw it out there. We'll bring that. We'll dive into that later. But so let's do a little introduction. Brooke, your first time. Why don't you give everybody a little intro and bio on yourself?
So I'm Brooke. I am a rookie firefighter paramedic, South Central Wisconsin area. I won't say the name of my department. I was hired full-time a little over 2 years ago. I came from the corporate world. I worked for a Fortune 200 company called Cummins. I was a project manager there for their prototypes. So got to travel a lot with that, and started in the fire service when my husband and I bought a small farm out in rural Wisconsin, and got involved with the volunteer fire department in our area, very rural, very small area. At the time I was 100 pounds heavier, so I lost a lot of weight to do it right. And was at a conference one time, and somebody had said to me, "Hey, have you thought about doing this for a living?" At that point, I hadn't, but I knew that very, very early on when I started doing it, I was very into it. This is what I wanted to do. I wanted to be better. So I started losing the weight, started getting my certifications, and started applying back in 2015. And in 2018, my chief of my now department called and said, "Hey, what are you doing for the next 20 years of your life?" Here I am.
Good. That's a good phone call to get for sure.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's awesome, Brooke. Thanks for being here. I appreciate it. Nate, what's up, bro?
All right. So Nate Routledge, not far from Chief Site here in upstate New York. Currently captain of my volunteer fire department here. I say this every time I get to come on here and talk with you guys. I'm a rookie officer, a relatively short amount of time in the fire service, just 7 years now. Currently a 911 dispatcher here in my county too, with aspirations of going from volunteer to career somewhere down the line. And as you can tell from the accent, I'm not from Sullivan County, New York originally. Moved here from England 7 years ago. Happened to be something I was pursuing before I came here. And once I got here to upstate New York, I was able to turn that dream to reality and get involved in the fire service, and haven't looked back.
Cool. Thanks, Nate. Always appreciate having you on. Brother John?
Well, I don't have a sweet accent like that, but I think everybody knows me. I've been involved in the emergency services for like 20 plus years, fire, EMS, dispatch. I'm now the supervisor at dispatch, and I was chief officer for 8 years. I was in the line for quite a long time. So here I am, owner of a training company. So
if Brooke and I's communications aren't like spot on, you guys aren't going to correct us, are you?
I might.
911 dispatcher isn't going to kick in.
I might.
Maybe we should have a little sidebar chat, Chief John.
Yeah, I'll write you up.
All right, so let's dive in. So the topics at hand are this: who comes first? All right, that's question number one. Who comes first? And have we, as a service, become too safe? All right, and there's a couple of events, recent events that we can dive into a little bit. All right. I always preface bringing up any specific fire service events by saying none of us were, unless it happened at one of our jurisdictions, none of us were there, right? So we don't have firsthand knowledge of any specific fire, and I love learning from other people's stuff, but unless you can get a real firsthand account, sometimes it can get a little rough out there, right? With the Monday morning quarterbacking, we'll call it. So we've got two specific instances. I think we can kind of relate this topic to a little bit. We've got the Atlanta Captain Danny Dwyer incident where, he went in, made a grab, ended up being suspended for a couple of days. And now recently this week, we've got the YouTube footage that's blowing up all over the place from Mobile, Alabama, where the firefighter is standing outside the window, appears to be attempting to mask up, although they have released a statement saying something slightly different. And a civilian comes, reaches in the window, grabs a woman, and just basically yanks her out the window with the firefighter standing there. So I think we can kind of bring these in as we talk about these topics. But who wants to jump in first regarding have we as a service become too safe? John shaking his head. You want to dive in? Go ahead.
Yeah, I speak about this in my officers class, and it's not even about life safety so much also as it is about property conservation. So the three pillars of the fire service: life safety, property conservation, incident stabilization, right? So when we go there and we determine there's no life hazard and we say we either make a rescue, we don't. Once, there's fire departments all over the country, the world, that once fire gets up in the attic, they pull all their guys out and then dump thousands of gallons of water into the house, and it's a mess. My opinion is our job is still to promote, saving this person's house. So think about standing in the middle of the street with nothing, all your belongings on fire or being damaged now by water. We should be, trying to save as, even if we could save a bedroom. So they have a bed, they have clothing, they have their important documents. That's all part of our job. And I think people miss that once they're like, oh my God, we got drilled into our head for years. The houses are going to collapse, lightweight construction, all this nonsense. It's really just comes down to like training and tactics as far as, if you have proper lines in place and people opening up and doing the right thing, you can put fire out and still save property. So I think it's a double-headed dragon that we are facing as far as life safety and property conservation.
Okay. Brooke, when you messaged me originally, when you asked me about the show that we were doing, and we kind of threw the topic out there at you. This is what you said, and I think this ties in right off the top, so I'm just going to use it. All right. You said, I don't believe in blindly taking messy action for the sake of some sort of hero nonsense. And I think that speaks volumes, because we've got a couple sides to this, right? We've got the side of, like John just said, life safety, incident stabilization, property conservation, right? So if we can realistically save somebody's house by going interior, getting water on the fire when we don't have a life hazard, great. All right. But if we can't, right, and we're just doing it because we want to, say that we went interior, are we really operating safely. It is a double-edged sword. What do you think?
So that's why I was a little reticent to come on, because I think I have a little bit different thought process down this whole channel.
Good.
And part, I mean, I'm not here to argue with anybody. Everybody's entitled to their opinion. I did do a little research because I think that unless you have data, you're just another person with an opinion. Yep. So it kind of started looking around at, okay, why is this question coming out right now? Is it because of the one-off thing that we witnessed that people are blowing up? And just like you, I have zero desire to even bring that topic in. I'm not going to comment. I'm not going to comment on it. I wasn't there. It could be a one-off thing. This guy could have an awesome career behind him and everything. And it's not for me to judge or say something happened. So I was thinking, where did this come from? Where did this idea that we're too safe come from? I mean, are we killing civilians in disproportionate amounts than we were before? And so I looked that up, and this comes right from FEMA. So I'm going to read you some statistics. I wrote them down. They came from the FEMA website. In 1979, civilian deaths in fires, 7,575. Okay. That was in 79. In 89, 10 years later, we dropped down to 5,410. It's a pretty significant drop. Sure. 99, 3,570. Okay. 2009, 3,010. Now you start looking at 2018, and there was a little bump because of it said there was some sort of one-off thing with a whole increase for 85 deaths in the campfire in November that happened 2018. That just came from it was a blip on there. It was hey, this is a blip in the data because of a one-off incident, basically.
Right. Sure.
And I used to be a data analyst when I worked in the manufacturing world, so statistics I'm I got to know the whole story. I want the whole picture. What is the whole picture here? Because right now we're just looking at this one instance, and all of a sudden it's oh, we're too safe. Clean cab concept. Oh my God, we're killing people. No, you know what? If you look at the statistics, no, we're not. We're not too safe. We're saving more lives than we have before. Less people are dying in fires than they have before. And I wasn't able to find 2019 specifically, so because I was trying to go by nines, nice little progression. But to date, as of the 26th of May, 995 civilian deaths in house fires. So even if that doubles because we're about halfway through the year, we are still trending downward. So my answer to your question is no, that we're not being too safe, because the trend in data is going down. There are less people dying in house fires than ever. So that for me, I don't believe in this big messy, hey, we're just aggressive, because I came from a volunteer fire department that was very much that way. Hey, we go if something happens, because not much happens, we're just waiting on tones all the time. We have to go do something big when there's really not much to do. Do I believe that? Yes, saving what you can is absolutely our job title. Absolutely. But I'll tell you, this is my preface now that I'm a rookie. I'm going to do whatever my officer tells me to do. If he tells me that, hey, we're going to stand outside, we're going to get this thing under control before we go in, who am I to question that? Right.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and when you look at you could take the data and the numbers and probably continue to dive into that a lot deeper, because fires themselves are probably trending down as well, I would imagine, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. So fires themselves are probably trending down as well. And you could continue to dig into that data a lot deeper. I just want to pause real quick because I see Jeremy got on. Jeremy, what's up, man?
Hey guys, what's going on?
Everything good?
Hi, Jeremy.
Hello. I just
missed my rant.
No, I heard it. I was
You heard
listening
it? Okay.
I was driving. Oh yeah.
Everything good in the kitchen?
I had a little kitchen fire behind my oven, I guess, apparently as soon as I walked out of the door, so I had to race back and
wow.
But yeah, we're in good shape, I think, so far.
Right,
so
cool.
First due.
Yeah, I was. First time, so I gave a report and everything.
Well, welcome. Thank you for being
Thank
here.
you.
If you wouldn't mind, just give a introduction of yourself. We've kind of dove in a little bit. Brooke just gave us some
Yep.
really cool information and data that she dug into today on the topic at hand, which was great. And I think you heard most of that because you popped
Yeah,
in.
I heard as soon as John started talking, I
Cool.
was
Awesome.
listening, so
So-
I heard pretty much all of it.
So if you wouldn't mind, go ahead and just introduce yourself.
Yep. My name is Jeremy Sanders. I work for a career department. I'm a captain there, and I also am a firefighter for a volunteer department in my hometown. I run Crew First Culture social media pages and got a new startup podcast too.
Cool. Thanks, Jeremy. Thanks. Appreciate you being on.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, you're doing good things with your podcast as well, and I've enjoyed listening to it so far. So
Well,
keep
thank
doing
you.
it. Yeah, I appreciate it. All right, so let's keep going. Who's up? Who wants to? So all right, here's where I think we can. So on the volunteer
Follow on
side of,
from the statistic that Brooke had.
oh, go ahead. Sorry, Nate.
That part. So I was actually fortunate enough to go and take a seminar with Chief Selker and Chief Mercer on survivability profiling. So this is that whole thing they got going on, with coming up, and if the whole top floor is rocking, it looks like no one's going to survive, they're not going in, and that whole thing. And so Chief Selker made a good point in that he was more towards the aggressive side of things, whereas Chief Mercer was more towards the, it looks like no one's going to make it, that top floor's flashed, we're not putting anyone in there type deal. And he kind of made a good point too. You look at the amount of civilian deaths every year, and it's coming down. We're below 2,000 now. So say we like Brooke said, if we hit 1,800 this year, then we'll be in good shape coming down. But then when you look at the rate of civilian deaths to, say, line of duty deaths, very few of those are fire related. So is that a good thing? Is our technology improving where we're in better shape when we're in these fires, or is it that we're not going in as much? Maybe we're sacrificing those guys to keep our numbers down. And that was another way he looked at it. And I was like, man, that's a pretty cool way of thinking about it.
So I think if we start looking at line of duties and we start, and you use the word, are we in better shape? We're not going to, we could have completely separate live on this one. But when we look at line of duties and still the repeated, number one killer of firefighters every year, and we look at those statistics and we look at those numbers, it's still, heart related issues every year. It's still number one. Now,
44% last year. So half of your pie chart.
Yeah. So half your pie chart, 44%. And now, are some of those underlying conditions that people probably did not know about? Sure. I'm sure that some of those absolutely are. Right. I hate using the word preventable, but how many of those are because of the shape that our firefighters are in? Right. Or some of our firefighters are in, so we could go down the, firefighter fitness road, and we'll be an hour just on that topic probably. But the
numbers last year here are showing that there was 14 structure fires that resulted in a line of duty death. Four of those deaths were either due to a collapse or getting trapped. 2 were from burns, and the rest, it breaks it down into what sounds more like medical emergencies on the scene before, during, or after the fact. So
right.
I don't think that, just a comment, I don't think that the conversation is just about life safety. Like Gene just put on the chat in YouTube about, we didn't address property conservation, and that was kind of what I was getting at, was like, great stats, 100%, you have a valid point. However, a lot of companies pull out of a fire, but prematurely, because they're like, well, there's no life safety here. Like, we're done, put the ladder truck up. And that's kind of more of my angle of this. Like, we're being too safe, is that you're either inexperienced or untrained if you're making that decision, or your priorities are out of whack, you know?
Well, and I think, look, if we try to stay in our volunteer lane, right? So, I know Brooke and Jeremy are on the career side as well. Brooke has some time in the volunteer service, so she definitely has some experiences there. In the volunteer service, all right, and it's probably, it's anywhere. It can be in Jersey, it could be on Long Island, it could be in some of the larger companies, but in some of the more rural, smaller areas where maybe they don't have the manpower, they don't have the training, they don't have the equipment. Yeah, you're right. There does seem to be a very definitive line of no life hazard, defensive. It doesn't matter if it's a room and contents, and they get there and maybe there's reasons for that, right? Maybe when they pull up on the scene, they've got, a chauffeur, 2 firefighters, one who's a 16-year-old kid, one who's an 80-year-old grandfather, and they've got nobody to, perform the attack. I think that probably has to do with some of it. All right. Some of it has to do with training, and not understanding or not thinking about all the different types of potential ways that they could attack this fire. I know I mentioned transitional attack to some guys, and they're like, "Oh, Jesus Christ, transitional attack. You either go inside or you don't go inside." No, bro, come on. Just open your brain for a minute. I'm not saying you're standing outside, you're putting the water in the window and you're never going in the building. I'm saying that in my world, right, if I show up with a short staff crew, that transitional attack might work for me, right? Because I might have 4 in the first 10 minutes, 4 guys that can get the hose off the truck, put the water in the window. And then in the next 4 minutes, I might have 6 more that can go inside and really start knocking that fire, So are we training to maximize our efforts and keeping safety in mind? Right.
There are a few things that irritate me more than the stance of absolutely never on anything with our career or with our field of work. I just don't understand people that are so against so against solid streams, or so against fog streams, or so against your combination attack, or whatever you call it. They're all tools. Everything we run on is going to be different. Why not just have as many tools as you possibly can, so that when a situation comes around where you can use that particular tool, it's there, it's trained on, the equipment's there, whatever. Okay, so you use it once every 5 years, but maybe that one time was a very important time to have that, whatever it is. I've never understood the stance of just, we will never do that, or we will always do this. It doesn't work. I just never have understood that.
Chief, I'll give you a perfect example. And you guys were in my mental health class. For those who don't know, I was first due as the chief officer, first firefighter on scene of a structure fire with entrapment. I show video of it. Small fire, survivability was like 90%. I went in by myself, told them on the radio I'm going in by myself. Winded up not getting the guy out because he was fat, and conditions changed rapidly. That's something I had to deal with on my own. But 2 points. One, I got a lot of Monday morning quarterbacking of people hard-headed that said, "Oh no, you got to stay outside and take command." That's the most fucking stupid thing I've ever heard in my life, that the first officer's got to stay outside and take command. When I tell you on the radio I'm going in the back door, you can't figure out what to do when somebody tells you you're going in the back door to try to make a rescue, right? You should be able to figure that out. And 2 is, I was inside long enough, and I knew that I was getting burned, after things deteriorated. And so this guy was clearly not alive, or survivability had severely decreased at that point, and I got out. I was still by myself. So, you know, it comes down to like knowledge, training, making the decision. But you know, there are still people out there who think the first officer's got to take command, and that's just, you know, part of this conversation is ridiculous conversation. It says it right in the law in New Jersey that you don't have to do that. There's two cases: life safety and something else. But the first one is life safety, where you can make that, you know, in the ICS scheme. So,
Right. Well, and you know, again, it comes down to the people that you have, you know, who that officer is, right? If they're capable of, you know, making that attempt, like, you know, like you made that attempt. There's I'm sure there's plenty of you know, incident commanders out there that would have stood right at the back of their truck and waited for that first engine to show up.
absolutely.
And been like, you know, we have a report of somebody in the back door, you know, go do your thing, you know, and that's the way they would have handled it. And you know, maybe where they are, that's the way they operate. And again, it's you know, it's you know, that's on them and their SOPs and how things are laid out. You know, I know, me personally speaking, if I pull up and somebody tells me that somebody's in the house and I've got all the equipment with me and I think I can get in quick and attempt to make a grab, I'm going to go in and attempt to make a grab. But that's me, you know. My
Right.
assistant chief might not do the same thing, and you know, that's okay. You know, it comes down to being confident in your skills and your ability to do things also. But you know, the other thing I think we have to look at when we look at this, the safety culture is, you know, we are inundated with the safety message. Does everybody agree that we are inundated with the safety message in every aspect of what we do, from our gear to I saw somebody posted, I can kind of see the comments scrolling on the side of my screen, but somebody posted something about the clean cab, you know, everything that's going on with, you know, cancer in the fire service now. And I'm not minimalizing any of this stuff. I'm just saying that we are inundated with a lot of different things when it comes to our safety as firefighters.
Is that
Yes,
when
agreed.
things have changed, though? So I'll kind of direct this more, you know, you and John, Chief John, you guys have been around for a long time. And when you came in and when you were learning your trade, probably weren't getting hammered with all that stuff. Maybe they didn't have the research on this stuff. They didn't know, you know. I remember listening to the one episode, and when you got in, you had a pair of 3/4 hip boots and a long coat.
You're dating me, bro. You're so dating me right now.
I think it's full of shit, though.
Yeah.
So,
I'm going to let somebody else comment, and then we'll talk about
Yeah.
my 3/4 hip boots.
that was the culture back then. So like I said, I'm under 10 years. I've come through, and you were one of my instructors coming through. And now the big thing is, you know, who comes first? We come first. And that's how it's drilled into us from day one. You know, you go to firefighter 1, it's getting drilled into. You come through as a fire officer, it's getting drilled into. And in these classes, has that changed, and has that maybe changed in the perception as people come through, as the waves come through, you know?
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, you're right. There is a lot of that in the training for sure. Jeremy, Brooke?
I sorry, you got something to say, Brooke? You may.
No, go ahead.
I think, and Brian touched on it just very briefly, but I think for me, probably the biggest key to all this and the most important thing is, so you can ask this to anybody, any firefighter, and you're most likely going to get a different answer from every person you ask, because of there are different departments, different supervisors, you know, everything. So
Sure.
I think, to me, the bigger piece of this, when I am thinking of for them, you know, that type of mentality, is everything before the alarm comes in. You know, what are you training on? You know, our job is so dynamic. You know, as volunteers, we have full-time jobs, so our time to train is competing against our family time. So it's just not a lot there. So what are you focusing on training with? Are you using that time to get real training in, or are you just using it to meet up with friends at the fire station and mess around for a while? You know, that it's so dynamic. You know, just dealing, like here in a little bit, I keep looking on my shoulder because I'm literally probably 100 yards from the fire station. We're about to go do some hose training, and if you just took like nozzle work and hose training, you could have months and months of training just from that one aspect, because it's so dynamic. And I think that the real key to all of this is, and you touched on too, is just like our physical fitness and our training. You know, are we really doing everything we can to be prepared for that moment where we are needed to really save somebody's life? Because it doesn't matter if we're safety conscious or not safety conscious, or we're aggressive or not aggressive. If we aren't trained or physically able to do the job that we have to do to save that person, it doesn't matter. It's not going to happen. Or it's even worse. We're going to put ourselves in a bad spot. And then the next guy or two, or, you know, next firefighter or two are going to have two people to rescue. So I think that's probably where I would focus on more of this conversation, is that.
I agree.
Spot on, Jeremy. That was exactly what I was tracking down. I mean, if half of our line of duty deaths for assumedly firefighters that are interior and or maybe, you know, after the fact that they come out and they're in cardiac, you know, distress. I don't want to, again, like you said, Chief, use the term preventable, but the American Heart Association does have pretty good statistics stating that a lot of, you know, heart disease is preventable with, you know, a decent cardiac routine. So when it comes down to who comes first, I really hope that who I'm going to work for, that they're looking out for me first. That's you. I mean, that's on you. You need to make sure that I come home to my family so that I, when I get on a scene, have the confidence that you're not putting me into a bad situation. I feel very fortunate because the career department that I'm with, we are safety conscious, but we aren't doing it at the expense of not doing the job, if that makes sense. I feel like there's really good balance with my department, and I feel safe, which I think is the biggest thing when it comes to leadership. I feel safe with my officer. And that allows me to do my job better. But when it comes to our own safety, like Jeremy said, exactly spot on. Jeremy, I couldn't have said it any better myself. What are you doing for me? And this goes back to the officers. What are you guys doing to make sure that I'm ready? All right. I don't need to be a liability on the fire ground or whomever. When you go in to make a save and all of a sudden now I've got to send a RIT, or you've got to send a RIT team out in there after me and a civilian that's down. So
Right.
what is it that you're doing to help me get there?
Yeah, and it's all pieces of the puzzle, right, that have to come together. So, you know, referring to the officer as you just did. So I'm taking myself out of the officer role for a minute. If I'm interior on a fire, right, if I'm working interior on a fire, I want to have full confidence in whomever is standing in the street, right? Because I've only got the view on the fire from where I'm at. I've got that six-sided view in the room, you know, or wherever I am in that building, right? I can see what I can see, right? I can't see what's going on above me. I can't see what's going on in the attic space. I can't see what's going on outside, you know, so I've got to have confidence in the person that's standing outside, you know, and, you know, again, it's stressing in the volunteer world. So we have, you know, we can have a real mix of people out there. We can have some really well-trained, experienced people, and some that are not so, you know, and that all has to be a part of we have to think of that as a part of our safety culture within that organization, right? We can say we're aggressive, we're interior, we're doing this, we're doing that. But you know what? If we're sending people in and we've got people standing on the outside that don't have a clue as to what the hell they're doing, or like you said, you know, whose faith is the interior firefighters in? Whose hands are they in? So it all kind of comes together. And it's not just a one-sided view or a single answer question.
Absolutely. Comes down to like everybody has said, it comes down to the training and the education on what we're actually doing and the job at hand. You know, you can't do it. You know, if you suck, you suck. That's it. You know, you right. I mean, you got to make yourself better, or you know,
Right.
not be in that command role or the officer leadership role. So it comes down to the training and the education, and you could talk about any topic, and it comes down to that.
Yeah.
Especially in volunteer world.
Yeah.
Some guys just don't believe that. Some guys just don't buy into that. They think it's a social club or a drinking hole. You know, they just don't buy into being dead serious about it. And you know, the famous excuse, we're just volunteer. You can't expect us to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and like Jeremy just said, you know, a minute ago, you know, what are you doing on your training nights? I know lots of volunteer firehouses that have training nights every week, but they're not training. You know, they're sweeping the floors, they're washing the trucks, they're, you know, maybe driving the apparatus around town, they're starting up the saws to make sure everything runs, but they're not training, you know.
Right.
So when they do put themselves in that position, how are they going to operate? And the scary thing is, I don't remember who said it before. Maybe it was Brooke. I don't know who's, you know, the scary thing is, especially in a real rural area where they might only have like one structure fire a year, right? Now they get there, and what do they want to do, right? They want to put their supposed skills to use, right? And now we really got to think about safety, because if we're not training regularly, and we're going to one structure fire a year, that's probably going to be the most dangerous structure fire in the area. If they're attempting to,
Yeah.
you know, be aggressive and not just
Absolutely.
stand outside and put water on it.
And something else Nate kind of mentioned earlier about the survivability profiling. I think that is such it's just a very fragile topic. You know what? Okay, if it's got a place, that's fine. But what I worry about and what I see is that people take that a little too far. You know, if you got a 2-story house and you got fire coming out of 2 rooms in the front, you can't write any of that bottom floor off. You can't write even the back half of the second floor. And I've just seen a lot of people just really take that kind of beyond where I think it was meant for. Okay, yeah, those front 2 rooms on the second floor are not survivable. I get that. But at least walk around, at least see what those other rooms on the back look like. You know, there's a huge push now, you know, through the public with this close before you doze, close your door before you go to sleep, and all that. And all of us have seen pictures that prove that very, very to the point. And I'm not arguing that at all. I think it's absolutely true. But if we are telling citizens that you close your door, and if there's a fire, we will come get you, I want to do everything I can to make sure if there is some room on the back or wherever it is that doesn't have fire blowing out of it, that we make sure that it's checked at least. You know what I mean? And so, and to kind of go another route too, is we've got 7 kids, and I can't trust myself to say that everybody is out of the house, knowing that some of those kids have friends over sometimes. Some of the kids, you know, are gone that my wife okayed, but I didn't know about it. And trusting people to say in and out is just a scary thing, because you see a lot of videos that doesn't happen correctly too. So there's just a couple of things that, you know, that were on my mind as far as this topic as well.
That's like the vacant conversation. You know, what's really vacant?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, especially depending on where you are, you know, I mean, it may look vacant from the outside, but is it really vacant? You know, I just want to jump back to one what thing Nate brought up before regarding, you know, the evolution of our equipment and the safety culture. You know, sure, 30 years ago when we were wearing hip boots and no Nomex hoods, you know, you also weren't getting very far inside of the structure with no Nomex hood on, you know. And I vividly remember that conversation because I was a young guy, right, when guys first started wearing Nomex hoods. And I remember the old timers saying they'll never do it, right? And their reason for never doing it was because they couldn't feel the tips of their ears burn, you know, and that was their key indicator to know that they needed to turn around and go out, right? That was their flashover indicator that it's getting hot. I got to turn around and I got to make an exit, you know, and that was the thing back then, you know. And yeah, sure, the safety culture regarding how we're trained and educated, there's not a class that I teach or a program that I am given to present that does not have a safety chapter in it somewhere about something, you know.
Right.
There absolutely is. So we definitely are, you know, there definitely is a focus on safety for firefighters. And yeah, look, and part of it is us first. There is a lot of that, you know, us first. You know, we're number one. The civilian is second. And I don't know, maybe to a degree, you know, I mean, sure, I'm not looking to run inside and kill myself, but I'm willing to take a well-planned risk, you know. It was a word I was looking for, but didn't pop into my head. But you know, I'm willing to take a risk depending on what I know about that incident or what I know about that fire. I don't know where John went. He disappeared. But
Yeah, the visitor in the room.
yeah.
But I'm not talking about like, you know, unnecessary risk. And obviously, you know, you go through like the Courage to Be Safe classes and stuff like that, and it's hammering on you know, not making the unnecessary risks. But you know, we talk about this, you know, some of the stuff we're going to talk about with these video clips, and you know, are we being encouraged not to take those extra risks that maybe you wouldn't take on every other run, but maybe there is that one time where someone's just inside the window, and rather than you taking, you know, it should only take you 20 odd seconds to mask up anyway, right? It's kind of what I would say the standard is, what you want to try to achieve, 20 seconds. I'm seeing videos online since that of guys doing it less. Again, it circles right back to the training that we're talking about. You know, but do you lean in that window without throwing your mask on and throw the lady over the sill and get her out? And, you know, you take that couple of shitty breaths and you move on, and you still go home. And so does that lady.
So here's what I hate about look, I love social media. I love the people it connects me with. I love how I'm able to meet people from all over the country and, you know, and kind of jump on something like we're doing tonight. What I hate about social media is pretty much just what happened this week. Look, I don't know what was going on at that thing, right? All I know is that somebody got a 10-second video clip of a large incident. You know, that's all I know. And Jeremy, I listened to your podcast today. You talked about it in the podcast you posted today about social media, right?
Yep.
I didn't watch there's no video of that entire fire, of everything that went on, of all the searches that those guys did, all the grabs that they might have made, all the people that they took out, right? There's a 20-second clip of, you know, this guy standing outside the window. God knows what happened up until then, and God knows what happened after that. Right. And that's part of what I really dislike about social media. And of course, everybody's on there tearing the poor guy apart.
Yeah.
And we don't know any of it. All right.
Yeah.
If I was going to take anything out of it, right, and you know, reflect on myself or take something back to my firefighters, it would be something, you know, like, hey, if you were in a similar situation, you know, and you need to get your mask on quick, you know, let's go back to training. You need to get your mask on quick. How fast can you do it? You know, can you do it
Yeah.
with your gloves on? Can you get your hood on? Can you get your helmet on? Like how quick, you know, we do in our state firefighter one, we do the 1.5-minute dressing drill, right? From street clothes
Yeah.
to encapsulate 1.5 minutes. And what I find is every one of the rookies by the end of the program can get dressed in 1.5 minutes, but you get them at the fire room door where they got to mask up, just mask up. And they're
Mhm.
like, it's a minute, you know, just under the pressure. So that's where I would like to take something like that is, all right, this happened. And this poor guy's getting blasted all over social media and all over the news feeds. But how can we learn from what might have happened that we don't even know if it really did?
Yeah.
Right?
I like
That-
your approach.
Go ahead, Brooke. Sorry.
I like your approach. I mean, it's problem solving, right? It's not just, hey, let's talk about it. It's here, let's define what happened. And, you know, the measurement is how fast can we do this? How can we be better? Right? Like there's an improvement aspect as opposed to a punitive, you know, that's good. I mean,
Well, because it's a never ending cycle, right? I mean, the first video that got put up, of course, as soon as it goes up, everybody is blasting this poor guy because he didn't yank this woman out of the window, right? Then the fire department puts out a statement about what actually happened, what he was doing. So of course, then everybody's on there blasting the fire department and the statement that they made, and it's all just bullshit. You know, we don't know. We weren't there. It's a 20-second clip. Right. I can take any one of my fires and take a 20-second clip and make it look like the best fire ever or the worst fire ever. You know,
I think anybody can be critical in those moments, but you know, I think if you take a step back, like you said, and say, okay, so what can we learn from this and how can we improve? I mean, a learning experience, but like he could have been doing it exactly as it's supposed to. And like I said, that framed up clip could really be painting this differently. Again, I don't like the, you know, but I think the whole idea of seeing something and being like, so how can we do this better, as opposed to giving commentary on this happened and that happened. And, oh, look at this. It's a terrible department. It's a terrible firefighter. It's a terrible situation. No, just forget about all that. It doesn't really matter what department is doing down the road. How are we getting better?
Sure. Because look, whether you've been in that situation or not, okay, I would take that and look, if one of my people was being critical of that person in that incident, I would say, all right, let's try it. You know, let's put ourselves under that load and let's see how quick we can do what that guy was. Let's assume we know what he was trying to do, trying to get that mask on. Let's see how quick we could do it with all the civilians screaming at us. Right. People yelling, God knows what, you know, surrounding you to get her out.
Yeah.
So there's the extra pressure of that. You're not standing in a training center, bro, with a mannequin inside the window. Right. This is a real life. This is a human being with half the neighborhood standing outside screaming at you to get to work. Right. If anybody has ever been in that situation sucks regardless of what you're doing. Right. Because you know you're being watched. Like, you got to just, like John said before, you got to fall back to your skills and hope
Those
that,
videos, they're always out of context because they always miss. There's so many of these things go around. It's not even just with the fire service. You know, you look at all this other stuff that goes on social media. You always miss the part that happens before this one little clip gets posted and then the world goes crazy. But like you guys were saying, you take that and then, you know, Brooke and Jeremy go to work tomorrow on shift and they spend 30 minutes with their crew masking up and trying to practice their technique. You take it, you learn from it, and then you hope that when it is your turn, you're ready and you do what you got to do, you know?
Sure. Absolutely.
Listen, it goes back and it goes back to training. And I know we're talking about the same thing here, but I used to do drills with guys and I would like, you know, we had an abandoned structure that we used, and I would like nail the mannequin to the floor in between the floors so that they had to rest, not only get the guy out of a floor, but now he's nailed into the floor. I would put all kinds of, and some guys would come out and they'd be like, oh, that's unrealistic. And I'm like, listen to me. I realize nobody's going to be screwed to the floor, but the point of the drill is to get your heart rate up, to get your brain going, to put that stress on you that you're going to feel when you're in that situation. Cause I thought I was prepared, you know, and I was, it just didn't work out in my favor, but when you get in that situation where somebody's life literally depends on whether you make it or you don't, you can't simulate that. And our job as as training officers and then leaders of the department is to put that stress on them during training so that they think and learn the critical thinking skills and how to control that stress.
Yeah. I like to relate people's skills to sport, right? And this is how I tend to do it, right? If you ever played a sport, regardless of what your sport was, right? In high school, I was a big alpine skier, right? So, you're in the gate, you're looking down the hill at the course, right? You zone out and you're like in the zone. Doesn't matter what your sport is, right? Could be baseball, volleyball, softball. I don't care what it is. All right. Probably anything other than maybe even golf, professional. But all right. So you're in that zone, right? And you don't I remember in those days, like when you would kick out of the gate, you would not remember anything until you were through the finish and it was over, right?
Right.
Nothing. You would not remember anything. It's the same thing. It's the same thing that we're doing, right? When your skills kick in and that muscle memory kicks in and you're doing something that you've done repetitively and you practice and practice and practice and do it over and over and over again, it's the same type of thing, right? When you need that skill, it's going to be done and you're going to be like, oh shit, like I was in a pseudo Mayday situation years ago myself personally, right? I didn't call the Mayday for myself. Somebody else called the Mayday for me because we got separated, whatever, long story. But I did go out the window. Wasn't like anything crazy to talk about, but I remember it like it. I saw things were going bad. I saw that I was separated from my team. I saw that the only way out of the building was out the window. And it was like that. It was just over. Like I was outside on the roof. And then as soon as I realized what happened, then my next step was like, all right, get on the radio and let them know you're outside. Let them know you're okay. You know what I'm saying? But that's why I relate that sports story, because when I needed that skill, I didn't have to think about it. It was just like, boom, out the window, bro. I'm gone.
Yeah.
Jeremy, I know you gotta
Yep.
jump out to to your training at the firehouse. So
Yeah, I was just gonna say real quick. I do appreciate this. I'm looking over and they already got lines stretched out, so I think that's my cue to take off. But I just wanted to leave kind of you guys with this. So you hear a lot about, you can never train enough for a job that'll kill you. And kind of my thoughts on turning that into something as far as this topic goes is that, are you training like somebody else's life depends on that? And I think that's a really good perspective to take, and something that if you guys want to keep talking about it, I think that you never see that. Yeah. Are you training for a job that can kill you? Okay, obviously, but are we training for a job that could save somebody's life? So anyway, I appreciate it. Definitely, anytime you guys got something to talk about, I enjoy it very much and looking forward to next.
all right, Jeremy. Awesome. Thank you. Thanks for being on. Have fun.
Hi, Jeremy. Sorry.
No, that's all right.
I had technical difficulty.
So Jeremy brings up a good point, and again, we've circled back to training on just about every road that we've gone down tonight in this topic or topics. We have circled back to training, and that's the name of the game. I think, it's not about the safety culture, as we call it, or who comes first, the firefighter or the civilian. It's, how are we trained to do our job, right? And is that training sufficient, for what we're going to be tasked with?
I can tell you the Fire 1 class that we put on is not sufficient. So if you're a new firefighter and you are coming out of the academy and think that you're hot shit, you got to keep learning. drill with your company, you know, you have to keep pushing on, because the basic academy class that you get in New Jersey is not sufficient enough to save your life. You might, I don't know how you feel about that teaching Fire One. You know, just the amount of days that we go over, you know, like entanglements, it's a 1-day thing. That's not a 1-day skill. You know?
Well, I'll tell you how. I'm sorry.
The masking up, the masking up. Yeah, we go, you know, that's something we go over all the time. You know, nozzle work, all that stuff. But entanglements, air emergencies, that's a 1-day lecture. That's a 1-day lecture, and then hands-on in the afternoon. You know, we do the requirements. So
I just have a question for you. So with your volunteer companies, how often are you getting together to do these kinds of trainings? How are you navigating that? And I know we won't get into the challenges of getting people to show up, but like, do you have a set schedule? Do you have objectives? How do you?
Yeah. So the last company I was in, it was every Monday night we trained.
Okay.
The first Monday of the month was a business meeting, and then the rest were training. So Monday at 7:00, you knew you were at the firehouse.
Okay.
And then now my new company's Thursday, so we meet every Thursday. You know, do we do enough training? I mean, that's an argument. When I was chief, we did. I think we did. But you know, it's a volunteer, so it's all about the culture of the firehouse. If these, you know, you got some hard chargers that want to train, then you're going to train hard. If you got some guys who come up and they're like, yeah, I ran the saw, let's wash the truck. All right, get the beer and the pizza. Like, then you're going to have, you know, you're going to have a problem.
I think it really is the culture of the organization, and you can see the culture of an organization change based on the leadership. That's one thing I think you'll see in the volunteer service. You know, there's departments out there that train a lot. You know, train at least weekly. You know, maybe have some special drills and training on the weekend. But they do. They have lesson plans. They have skills that they want to cover. They have objectives. They have a plan A and a plan B. You know, and those are the departments that are successful. You know, and those are the departments that have a wide array of volunteers showing up to actually train and do their thing. And it isn't even age dependent, you know? But
Gene just said on YouTube, we got a little off topic.
Who said that?
Gene Dilla Paulia. Yeah, I don't know.
That's right. That's one of Nate's guys, and one of Nate's other guys asked if he shaved just for tonight's YouTube live. So I got that in a text message. But
no, I know who it was though. But
yeah,
I think we did. You know, we did get a little off topic, but the training. You know, when you look at like safety, life hazard, you know, life safety, property conservation, it all comes back to your training and attitude.
Yeah, I want real quick. I want to just go back to what you said about the training program.
Stop yelling.
I have a slightly different view on the training program, because I'm sure ours isn't much different from New Jersey's, but I look at it this way: in 130 some odd hours or whatever it is now, all right, I have to deliver all the skills necessary for somebody to achieve that Firefighter 1 certification, right?
Sure.
And I have to make sure that they're proficient in those skills when they leave the class. Now, I know that there's kids that leave that class and go back to their station with that certificate, and they might be interior on a working fire tomorrow.
Yeah.
Right. Now, do I as a person, as a firefighter, recommend that? Absolutely not. I tell them, you take these skills, you go back to your station, you train with your company, you learn how your department does these skills. You know, you take a deeper dive, and when your leadership feels that you're ready to take that next step, and this definitely ties back into safety, when your leadership, you know, is ready to take that next step, they'll give you the A-OK. All right.
Right.
But I know that's not realistic in all places. You know, some places are just happy to have warm bodies, and when they come back with that certificate, they're like, boom, I got another person to, you know,
Yeah.
go to the wolves, you know, and that's a safety concern as an outsider.
Sure.
We've even had people graduate that program that, for whatever technical reasons happened during the class, didn't see a lick of live fire. They got given the certificate. It might have had a little asterisk on it that said no live fire.
Wow.
Well, there's your firefighter 1 certificate. Have at it.
Yeah, that doesn't happen in New Jersey. I can tell you that.
Yeah. So let's circle back. Let's kind of close this out. Some closing thoughts on where you guys think we're at. Look, as a culture, I don't think that we have become too safe. I think we're in a different world. I think that we do study a lot more things than we used to, dive into data and facts and statistics,
Euro helmets.
and I think that's Euro helmets. You hear him? He's always got to throw the Euro helmets in there.
I got it. I was waiting for the right moment.
But I think that just comes with the time. I think as time progresses, that's going to continue. We're going to dive deeper into more. We're definitely not going to go backwards. Right. So I think when we're looking at this, I personally don't think we've become too safe as a culture. And sure, when somebody says in a classroom setting, or you're in a training setting, and they're like, well, who's first? You or the civilian? Well, what's the situation? What's the scenario? What do you mean who's first, me or the civilian? If I roll up and it's a 2-story residential with, fire showing out of the bedroom window, and I can get in and do a search, and well, yeah, I'm going to go in and do it. And I'm not going to think really twice about me, but if it's, fully involved structure fire and I pull up, I don't have a death wish. I'm not going to, throw on an aircraft suit and go walking in the front door, So what do you guys think, coming full circle on the topic?
I think you took the words right out of my mouth with saying, when you say who's the most important person, you're supposed to say, I am. Well, it depends on the situation. It depends on what's going on. It depends on everything. That's so circumstantial that you can't give that answer. Are you going to put yourself in a situation where, like you said, the house is going bumper to bumper and the survivability is 0 and get killed? No. Without the protection of a hose line? No. But, are you going to listen? The most risky thing that we do is VES, right? Vent enter search. That's the most risky move in the fire business. No protection of a hose line. You're opening up a flow path. You're going right above the fire. That's risky. That's risky business. You might get killed doing that. But you do it at a calculated risk. That the fact that there might be somebody in there. So I'm going to put myself in harm's way to get this civilian out, because that's what we signed up to do. Now, if there's fire blowing out of the window, are you going to VES that window? I really hope not. But if you...
Well, the view's already taken care of, so you're...
If you make a calculated risk, then, the civilian in that situation should be the most important person, because we're doing our job. That's the job we signed up for. But you have to take into consideration all of the factors that, go into your calculated risk.
Agreed. Brooke?
Chief, I think you kind of summed it up for me. I mean, situationally dependent. I kind of get a buy in that I'm your firefighter. Like, you tell me what to do, I'll go do it. I mean, I'm not going to question it. I trust my officers with my life because they haven't led me wrong. Sure. I trust that they're looking out for me and that they're looking to get the job done as well. So, I mean, I kind of get a buy on that one. I don't get to have, I don't want to say I don't get to have an opinion on it, but I really don't. Like, they say we go, we're going. We're just going to go. But, yeah, I think, like you said, I don't think it's ever we're going to go away from safety. So now we just have to learn how to embrace it. I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. I think it's good for everybody. Civilians, firefighters, all around, that, everybody's kind of marching to the same beat, and that we're all on the same page of, hey, we're coming for you. But, but you, officer, are looking out to make sure that we all come out. So
Yeah. You know, and I think as a culture, sometimes we kind of dive into what's fashionable at the time and forget about some of the other stuff. And I'll give you one quick example, Nate, before I go to you. You know, if I go to a fire and I see guys coming out doing decon after the fire, you know, they've got the scrub brushes out and the soap, and they're cleaning off their gear and hosing each other off before they get back in the rig or before they go back to the station. That's great. You know, obviously they sat in on a lecture somewhere. They're listening to everything that's out there, you know, regarding the contaminants and everything. But if I look at those same guys at that same fire and they're in doing overhaul without a mask on,
what's the point?
Yeah, what's the point of deconning your gear, fellas, if you're inside like breathing all that crap into your lungs? Because it's, you know, come on, you know, if you're gonna say you're operating safe and you're taking on all these new initiatives, you can't take on one initiative and kind of let the other ones go to the wayside. Nate, what do you got to say?
Yeah, so I mean, you know, you guys both hit on pretty much all of it there in the beginning. It's nothing's black and white in the fire service. From what I've learned in my limited time, there's nothing black or white. We could go to each one of our firehouses tomorrow and we probably all do it a different way to get to the same outcome. You're going to stretch a hose, you're going to put water on the fire, but you might do things slightly different. So I think that's, you know, that's a big part that plays into it. I think it's easy to forget that, like you guys said, property conservation too is a big thing. So especially in small towns like this, you know, small town volunteer fire services, you got to bump into that person again in the gas station who's, you know, you guys didn't get out the door effectively, you guys didn't do a good job, and you saved the foundation for them. You got to bump into them, get coffee 2 days later, and look them in the eyes, and you know.
And you know, they have no, you know, I'm not saying if you can't save the clothes or the pictures or whatever, but you see guys, and I used to be that guy, young, you know, full of piss and vinegar, smashing everything in the room, you know, and then as you get older and you know, now I own a home, so it's like, you know what, you got to like draw the line somewhere of, yeah, we're defensive, but you know, can we do this? Can we do that to protect these people's stuff?
You risk a little bit more, maybe just that extra. I'm not, listen, I got a hot wife at home. I want to go home when the call's done. Like, I'm not saying I want to go out and, you know, and not come back, but you know,
sure.
Can I do that little bit more for that person? Can I get, you know, that wedding album or something out of the living room? Yeah. Shit really goes south.
We're not flipping burgers here, you know. This is a real job.
We all know what we signed up for, and look, that's a big part of the message that I've been trying to get out since taking on this topic. You know, I don't care that you're not receiving a paycheck at the end of the week. You could go to a fire tomorrow and die just like somebody on the job anywhere in the US. You know, if you're not ready to do the job and you're using volunteerism as an excuse, you're in the wrong game. You know, you can volunteer in a lot of different organizations, right? You can be a volunteer. You don't have to be a volunteer firefighter. There's other things out there for you if that's your attitude. I went through the chat real quick. I just wanted to see if there was anything that we wanted to address quick before we ended. You know, the only thing I saw, I did see one comment regarding property conservation, you know, about pulling out of the fire too soon and giving up on it, you know. And again, I think that is, you know, it should be a tactical decision based on what the reports are from the inside, what's going on from the outside, what your resources are, what your water. I mean, there's a lot that goes into that. You know, I don't, you know, we shouldn't be making decisions even to go defensive with no data, right? With no information to back that up. You know, if it's just, you know, there's no life safety hazard, pull everybody out because that's the safest way to operate. Well, again, anybody feel any differently about that?
I agree with that too. I mean, listen, I'm not talking like I'm some salty dog and I've seen a lot of work over my short 7 years, because I haven't, you know.
With that accent, you sound like a salty dog.
Appreciate that. I've never worn a Euro helmet either, if that makes you like me. So you know, the people that are on the outside, like except with the training and we're getting programmed with some of this stuff where it's like, you know, we've been to a couple. I remember one in particular where maybe the smoke was a little bit dark inside the door, but you could have pushed in that extra 10, 12 feet. You could have probably got a little bit more of a knock on it, and maybe it wouldn't have progressed the way it did. But, and again, you go back to the judgment call of the guy standing by the door was concerned for the guys going in. It looked like it was dark. It was kind of banking down a little bit. Didn't want people going in too far. You know, maybe you could have saved that house that day, you know?
Yeah,
You
for sure.
just push that a little bit further. Again, there's a fine line. You don't want to be a statistic. You don't want to be another person, you know, in a FEMA email the next day. But, you know, I'll revert back to my last comment where you got to look those people in the eyes, you know, in the gas station the next day. So
Absolutely.
That's a great point.
stand up for.
Good point for sure. All right, guys. Well, this was great. I appreciate you guys coming on and joining me for this. We had some good comments going on in the comment section there, and obviously this will be up on the YouTube channel for anybody to watch on the replay. We got out with, geez, I don't think I heard any F-bombs at all. So
I think I dropped one.
did you drop one? I don't know. Brooke, you stayed pretty F-bomb free. That was
I so well behaved.
I thought with the stats you were going to start firing them left and right. You sounded very angry.
About data. I'm kind of a geek that way. I love numbers. I'm kind of a math nerd, so
I got nervous.
That's good stuff. So guys,
it doesn't matter that much, man. I was listening to a couple mowing the lawn the other day, and there was F-bombs flying all over the place, and some ones out there too, and I kind of liked it. So
yeah, for sure. All right, guys. Well, I appreciate you being on. Let's just go around real quick. If you guys want to give a little plug for your social feeds and everything you've got going on, go right ahead and feel free. So, Brooke, let's start with you this time.
Oh, what am I supposed to do?
Oh, if you just want to tell everybody where they can find you and follow you and your social feeds, if you want to.
I just have a personal blog on Instagram. It's more just about continuous improvement. So it's Misfit Hose Dragger. So it's nothing. It's kind of just been my everyday shenanigans running around here around the farm. I do a lot of firefighter. I mean, just actually, it's not even firefighter related. It's just fitness stuff. After I started losing weight, I got into weightlifting, and that's literally a lot of my news feed is a lot of my meal prep and weightlifting, and occasionally a few goofy farm photo memes that are in there. So it's Miss_Fit_Hose Dragger. You can find me on Instagram. So.
It's good stuff. It
is good.
It's very inspirational. Thanks. So
I really appreciate
I would definitely not say it's nothing. It's good stuff for sure. So
you can certainly reach out. My project is the 451 degree link. I'd be happy. I think all of you have them. Maybe.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So
that's how I found you. I was like, what the hell is this link?
I think you were like the first person I did a sticker swap with. Like, I think you had like one of the very first stickers that came out. So the links are now like, there's 500-600 of them out there, all 50 states.
That's great.
7 countries, 3 continents. So, I mean, it kind of took off. I did before everything hit with COVID, I had just started public speaking on kind of what I call the anti-motivational speech, which kind of confuses people. They're like, wait a minute. And it really is. It's not meant to motivate you. It's meant to say, hey, this sucks and it's a lot of work, but you can do it. And you don't get there by only doing it when you're motivated. You got to somehow find a way to overcome and adapt and just get it done. So, if you're interested.
Your chance to drop an F-bomb there. Wake the fuck up. That's what you got to tell.
Pretty much it. It is work. So, give me a follow. I do most of my, I guess, social media in the Instagram world. I'm on Facebook, but I don't use it really that much. So
it's good stuff. Good stuff. Definitely inspirational. And there's a lot of people out there that can benefit from what you're doing. So
appreciate that.
Keep it up. It's awesome. Nate?
Yeah, my Instagram's pretty uneventful. If you like pictures of Jack Russells and shit like that, Routledge 29 on Instagram.
And the best lawn stripes in town.
Oh yeah, it's summer too. It's lawn stripe season too.
I don't know. I'll put you up with that one. I might have to post one then.
All
I
right,
don't know about that.
you're gonna have to get involved.
It's like Yankee Stadium out front here.
John, go ahead.
Jersey Shore Emergency Training.com, Instagram, Facebook, whatever. You could always reach out to me. My big thing's mental health. So especially with this COVID nonsense going on, any need to talk or anything, I'm always there for everybody.
Yeah, thanks, John. Doing good stuff. Your mental health class is great. I had the privilege of sitting through it, and when that is out there, if you've got the chance to jump on that, whether online or locally, and hopefully we're going to do some local stuff together here once we're
absolutely
in a post-COVID world.
COVID killed me. I was supposed to go all over the country this year. This was my breakout year, and it killed me.
COVID killed everybody, but
I'm still paying for my plane tickets to California that I didn't go to.
It's grounded. But I've seen some great stuff online that I probably would have never seen if it wasn't for the pandemic.
Absolutely.
Team. But so guys, I appreciate it again. I just want to give Jeremy a quick shout out because he jumped in a little late because of what was going on at his house, and then he had training at the firehouse tonight. Make sure you check out Jeremy at Crew First Culture. It's at Crew #1 ST Culture, and he's on Instagram, Facebook, and has a podcast up on all the podcast players. So check Jeremy out as well. So guys, thank you very much.
Just a plug for Jeremy. His content's awesome. I've really enjoyed what he's had to say and some of his commentary on things. Super level-headed, super open-minded. So
yeah. Very, very, very good. And he's been putting up some great training videos. Great short training videos that are really helpful. So if you're not following Jeremy, I think he's got a YouTube channel also now that he's posting his training videos on. Make sure you give him a follow, because he's not here to plug himself on the end. So we'll make sure that we take care of him. So guys, again, thank you very much. I appreciate you being on here. This was definitely successful for the first time out, and stay safe and stay healthy. All right.
See you.
All right. Thanks again. Okay, we're off.
Are we?
I think so.
It says live still.
Yeah, I think you're live.